Okay, I'm starting to record, and we'll have a short lecture. All right. So I did most of 7.5 last time. I'm going to finish up 7.5. I only had 2 more problems to do. It should not take me that long. And then a question and answer session up until a maximum of 12 o'clock. But if we end earlier, that's fine. Then 10-minute break, which hopefully is earlier than that. And then I'll send the exam through Canvas announcements, but I'll also project it on the overhead since there's at least one request for that. Okay. And then 8.1 will begin on Monday. All right. So, okay, so 7.5, page 520. Last time I did 29, I was going to do 33 for you. It's a little bit harder because of the numbers. Tangent A is radical 2 minus 1 over radical 2 plus 1. And then I was going to do 37, and then that's it. Okay, so it should not take me that long. If you have questions prepared that you want to ask, have them ready. Okay, so 33, tangent of A is radical 2 minus 1 over radical 2 plus 1. So how do you do that? Oops. Tangent A is radical 2 minus 1 over radical 2 plus 1. All right, so I'll do my SOHCAHTOA, draw myself a triangle. Here's A. Okay, so tangent is opposite over adjacent, right? SOHCAHTOA. So opposite is radical 2 minus 1. I think I'll write it sideways. Radical 2 minus 1. And adjacent is radical 2 plus 1. And I have the hypotenuse, which I'll call x, I guess. All right, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Radical 2 minus 1 squared plus radical 2 plus 1 squared is equal to x squared. Okay. So my shortcut formulas are a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And if there's a minus, this is a minus. I'm using this. Okay, so this would be 2 minus 2ab, 2 times 1 times radical 2, plus b squared is 1. Then I square this, radical 2 squared is 2, plus 2 times a times b, 2 radical 2, plus 1 equals x squared. Okay. Very conveniently, these cancel out. So I have 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1, that's 6. 6 equals x squared. So x is the square root of 6. Okay, and once I have that, I got everything. Okay, so sine A, cosine A, tangent A. So SOHCAHTOA, opposite over hypotenuse. So that divided by that, radical 2 minus 1 over 6. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so radical 2 plus 1 over radical 6. Sorry, I'm supposed to put radical here. I think I put 6. It's supposed to be radical 6. And tangent, well, they already gave that to me, so I'll just copy that. Radical 2 minus 1 over radical 2 plus 1. Okay. Again, if I give you something like this on a test, please organize it in this fashion. Reciprocal of the sine is cosecant. Reciprocal of the cosine is the secant. Reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. And again, you should put the angle. So don't just put sine, cosine, tan, and cosecant, secant, cotangent. I'll give you partial credit, but it's got to be a function of an angle. A, B, theta, beta, alpha, or whatever. Okay, so flip, 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 no big deal. Radical 6 over radical 2 minus 1. Radical 6 over radical 2 plus 1. Radical 2 plus 1 over radical 2 minus 1. And again, on the exam, don't bother rationalizing the denominator for the most part. Okay, you can just leave it like that. All right, so that was 33. Oh, I didn't even write the problem number. 33. Okay, 37, and then I'm done, but it won't be as fast as the one I just did because there's a part A and a part B. Okay, so 37, cosine of theta is x squared. A, what quadrant am I in? A, theta is between 0 and 90 degrees. Quadrant 1. B, what quadrant am I in? Theta is between 270 and 360 degrees. That's quadrant 4, right? So A, I'm in quadrant 1. B, I'm in quadrant 4. Okay, I did this problem using a triangle. Let me do this one with the identity sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Cosine theta squared is x squared squared, right? What is x squared squared? Well, x to the 4th. Subtract x to the 4th. Then do the square root property. Sine squared theta is x to the 4th square root, plus or minus. Okay, now part A, I'm in quadrant 1. Everything is positive. I do the positive. Part B, I'm in quadrant 4. All students take calculus. So the sign SIGN of the SINE quadrant 4 is negative. So I'm going to do the positive for part A and then negative for part B. And that's basically the only difference. Okay, so part A, sine of theta is the positive radical 1 minus x to the 4th. And yeah, I already know cosine of theta is x squared. And now I just do the rest. So tangent is sine over cosine, radical 1 minus x to the 4th over x squared, like that. And reciprocals, right? So cosecant theta, secant theta, cotangent theta. Reciprocal, reciprocal, reciprocal. So the reciprocal of this is 1 over that, right? 1 over radical 1 minus x to the 4th. Reciprocal of that is 1 over x squared. Again, don't bother rationalizing the denominators. And reciprocal of that is x squared over radical 1 minus x to the 4th. Part B is almost the same thing, except again, we're in quadrant number 4. So the sign SIGN of the sign SINE is going to be negative. Okay. Then other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. Okay, so I'll write that down, then I'm going to finish. I'll be finished within a minute or two, folks. So that's it. So again, schedule-wise, I'm up to 7.5, which means I can mark this off now. So when we go come back on Monday, I'll get started on chapter 8, but I've already finished with chapter 7. So theoretically, none of chapter 7 is on this exam, but as you can tell, a lot of this piggybacks off the stuff we did in chapter 6. It's a nice review for the test, as it is anyway. Okay, so I'll be done in a minute or two, and then I'll let you ask questions. So you can ask questions from then until 12, but if you finish early or nobody has any questions, we can just break early and start early, okay? Okay, so for what we said for B, since we're in quadrant number 4, the SINE is negative. Okay, so the only difference is sine of theta is negative radical 1 minus x to the 4th. Again, because we're in quadrant 4, it said the angle is between 270 and 360, right? All students take calculus. And by the way, if you forgot to put this on your cheat sheet, put it now. You still have time. If you want to put that on your formula sheet, you may before the test starts. Cosine is still the same thing. And now I just do the same stuff. The only thing that might be different is a sine, S-I-G-N. So tangent is the same thing as what I put here, except it's a negative, sine over cosine, right? So negative radical 1 minus x to the 4th over x squared. And these are the same thing, except for the signs, again, S-I-G-N. So cosecant theta, secant theta, cotangent theta. Right? So negative, right? Negative 1 over radical 1 minus x to the 4th. And well, that's the same, 1 over x squared. And flip that, it'll be a negative x squared, whoops, x squared over radical 1 minus x to the 4th. Okay, and I am now done. I'll just do my focusing thing right quickly, and then I'll let you ask questions if you have any. So here's the focus. So if you want to start type stuff in the chat right now for problems for real, you may, or you may unmute yourself. Let me get you this focusing thing. Yeah, I'm still recording, so even after the test, you can look at this video, although it'll be very small. It's a mini video, I suppose, for this. It's only, what, 15, 20 minutes long or something like that. There's that. And there we go. Okay, so I'm caught up. I will now let you put stuff in the chat for review. And let me see. Okay, so 6.2, number 19 and 21, 5.5, 11, A and B. Okay, some of you asking about skipping a test. You're allowed to drop one exam. So if you don't feel comfortable with the exam, that's okay. You can drop one, but that means you aren't going to be able to drop any other exams. So just keep that in mind. Okay, 6.2, 19 and 21, 5.5, 11, A and B. Okay, that's what I see for now. Okay, so I'm going to put that. You can still start putting more stuff in the chat if you wish. Okay, so let's see what that's about. 6.2. Okay, 6.2, number 19. Okay, so this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, right? It's an octagon, and you're shading in half of it. So why don't I find the area of the entire octagon and divide it by 2, right? So I'll do it that way. Okay, I can't even draw an octagon. Okay, if I go all the way around, that's 360. I'm dividing it by 8, so this is 45 degrees. So that's 45 degrees. And they said that the radius of the circle is 1, so that's 1. That's 1. We'll go like this. So I basically want 4 triangles. Okay, 45 degrees. These two have to be the same. They add up to 180. So 180 minus 45 is 135. So half of that is 67.5. So each of these is 67.5 degrees. And so is that. Okay, so we call this H. So sine of 67.5 degrees is opposite over hypotenuse, H over 1, which is just H. Okay, so just punch it in my calculator. So I'm in radian mode. I got to get back to degree mode. Okay, so what is it? Sine 67.5, 0.92, call it 0.92 roughly, 0.92. Call that X. So cosine 67.5 degrees is adjacent of hypotenuse, X over 1. So cosine 67.5, 0.382. Okay, that's X, but the base is the whole thing. So the total area is 1/2 base, which is 2 times 0.382 times 0.92. Okay. Which is roughly 0.352. That's the area of one of them. Okay, they gave us 4 of them. So the area is 4 times 0.352, which is approximately 1.41. Okay. Now, since 21 is similar, I'd rather not do that, but you work it out pretty much the same way. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. Okay, and from those 6, you're only shading in 2 of them, it looks like. Okay, so I'll just say quickly for 21, conceptually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The picture goes like this. Okay, so you're doing 6 of them, so each of these is 60 degrees, and you'll be shading in 2 of them. Okay, so conceptually, that's what's going on there. Okay. So at least you got the concept. 5.511. 5.511 A and B. Okay. 5.511A, ln of x cubed equals 3 ln x. Okay, that's always true whenever it's defined. That's a property of logs. Okay, so when is this valid? For positive numbers. Okay, so x is in 0 to infinity, which means positive reals is what's allowed. Okay, part B is a little bit harder. So this is an identity. That's a property of logs. So what can I plug in? Only positive numbers, because you can't take the log of 0 or of negatives. Part B looks like this. ln x cubed equals 3 ln x. Okay, so for that one, put everything on one side. Ln x cubed minus 3 ln x equals 0. Factor out an ln x. Ln x squared minus 3 equals 0. So ln x equals 0, or ln x squared minus 3 equals 0. Okay, this one exponentiate, put an e. So x equals 1. So x equals 1 works. This one, ln x squared equals 3. Ln x take the square root plus or minus. Ln x is plus or minus radical 3. Okay, and we said, let's see. Yeah, okay, then we exponentiate. Okay, so x is e to the negative radical 3, e to the radical 3, and also 1. Okay, so my final answer is x is 1, e to the negative radical 3, e to the radical 3. And let me double check against the original. And the original, I have to make sure I'm not plugging in any negative quantity. All of these are positive. So it looks like we can keep them all. So all of those are acceptable answers. Okay, so I think I've caught up with that list. Let me check what else we have. So 6.4, 33, and 35. 6.4, 33, and 35. Again, the idea is, yes, you can drop one exam. It can be any of the exams, whichever is the lowest, including if you skip an exam. Okay, 6.4, 33, and 35. For 33. Cotangent squared A plus cosecant squared A equals negative cotangent to the fourth of A plus cosecant to the fourth of A. Okay, now this looks like the difference of squares. I'm only going to work on the right side. So my dividing line is going to be here. Okay. This is cosecant squared of A squared minus cotangent squared of A squared. Sorry, it's cosecant squared minus cotangent squared. There's a difference of squares. So it's, whoops, sorry. Cosecant squared A plus cotangent squared A. Cosecant squared A minus cotangent squared A. And look at what I have on this side. That's the same as that. So I hope this comes out to be 1, basically. Right? This has cotangent squared plus cosecant squared. Same thing here, cosecant squared plus cotangent squared. That's the same as that. So if I'm going to multiply by something, I hope this comes out to be 1. Okay, let's show that it is equal to 1. So cosecant squared A plus cotangent squared A. Cosecant squared is 1 over sine squared A. Cotangent is cosine squared A over sine squared A. 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared A. Sine squared A over sine squared A. That cancels out, that's 1. So cosecant squared A plus cotangent squared A. And they match, as you can see. Equal. Okay. And then 35 was asked for. Sine A minus cosine over sine A. cosine A minus sine A over cosine A equals 2 minus secant A cosecant A. Let's see. If I actually divide this out, I do see a 1. If I divide this, I see another 1. So I see 1 plus 1 is 2. So that might be a way to go. Let me change this to 2 minus 1 over cosine A times 1 over sine A, or 2 minus 1 over sine A cosine A. So hopefully that will help here. Okay, so this one, if I break it up into that divided by that, that divided by that, that divided by that, that divided by that, right? I have sine A divided by sine A, which is 1. And why don't I just leave that one alone for now? Cosine A over sine A. And then divide cosine divided by cosine is 1 minus sine A over cosine A. Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2, so there's the 2. And then these two, I'll get a common denominator and maybe that'll do it. So minus cosine A over sine A, leave a gap. Minus sine A over cosine A, leave a gap. And look at where I'm heading for. I want sine A cosine A. So times, whoops, cosine A over cosine A, sine A over sine A. So it's 2 minus common denominator, sine A cosine A. Okay, both of these have a negative, negative, negative. So I'll factor out the negative, and it'll be cosine squared A plus sine squared A. And we know cosine squared A plus sine squared A is 1, and there it is, the match. So 2 minus 1 over sine A cosine A, and we are done. Okay, so that's 35. I think I've caught up. Okay, so I don't see anything else in the chat. So any other questions? Wait a moment. You can either unmute yourself and put it in the chat, and if not, then we'll break in and start the test. Okay, so any other questions, please? All right, that'll do it, folks. So it's 11:38. So I'll send the exam maybe around 11:45. I mean, if you want to break longer, you can break longer. That's only 7 minutes, but you know, if you just come back later, it just means you have less time to the test. I'll try to send it over by 11:45-ish. Okay. All right. So we'll break until 11:45, and then we'll start the test. I will stop recording, and then you have to have your camera on and so forth. Okay.